All right, let's talk about tipping on your next all-inclusive vacation in the Dominican Republic. I hear this question a lot. What currency should I be bringing to the Dominican Republic for my all-inclusive vacation? How much should I be tipping? Who should I be tipping? These are all great questions, and I'm going to answer all these questions in this video so that you know when you come to your next all-inclusive vacation in the Dominican Republic, you bring enough tips to cover your entire vacation. So as I go through the video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add all these tips so we can see at the end of a day what it should be costing us to make sure that we have enough tips throughout the whole day. And then we'll tally it up at the end and we'll see a 7-day vacation, what things should cost so that we know we're bringing enough tips to the Dominican Republic for our next all-inclusive vacation. All right, before we get started on the video, I want to quickly talk about what currency you should be using in the Dominican Republic. Now, there's two main currencies used in the Dominican Republic, and one is the Dominican pesos, which is DOP, and USD, which is US dollars. Now, you can use either or. The resort workers will take both. Now, they prefer if you tip in Dominican pesos, to be honest with you, because you're saving them a step. After work, they don't have to go and exchange their money into Dominican pesos. It's just important to remember that any tip is a good tip. So whether it's Dominican pesos or USD, it's going to be appreciated. Now, there are advantages to having USD when you go on vacation in the Dominican Republic because all your excursions, your beach vendors, your souvenirs, these type of things, these extra things that you're going to purchase, they're all listed and they're all sold in USD. So it can be handy, you know, when you're going to buy a souvenir or an excursion and you're making that negotiation, you have the USD and you're not trying to do a currency exchange from USD to pesos or Canadian dollars to pesos. It can just be an easier process if you have USD handy. So there's benefits to both. So I personally bring USD and I bring Dominican pesos with me when I visit the Dominican Republic. Now, I'm going to be covering 5 main services that we all use when we go to the Dominican Republic on our all-inclusive vacation. Now, there's going to be a bonus 6th service that not everybody uses, but some of us do. So that's included in this video as well. So let's go through these 5 services. Let's start tallying things up and let's see how much we should be bringing with us for our next all-inclusive vacation. All right, service number 1, we all use it, and that's the bar. So there's 2 main ways that you can tip the bar, and one is you can leave one large tip that covers either your daily use at the bar or let's say your entire vacation, or you could do the second option, which is my preferred method, and that is to tip in smaller bills more frequently throughout the day. So the reason why I'm not a fan of the big tip method is because you could go to your bartender and say, here's my tip, make sure I've got a drink in my hand the rest of my vacation. The problem I find with that method is what if that bartender takes 2 days off work? Or what if that bartender gets moved to another location in the resort when you were hoping to see this person at the pool bar the whole time and now they're over at the beach bar? So the most common way to tip the bar service in the Dominican Republic is to tip more frequently and smaller bills. This is going to make sure that you're tipping the bartender who's making your drink at that time, and this just is more effective for everybody. So let's look at the numbers. If you want to be a big tipper, you're going to want to tip $1 US per every drink you order at the bar. Now, if you want to be a typical tipper, you're going to want to tip $1 US per every 2 to 4 drinks. So now let's look at our daily bar tips total. If you want to be a big tipper, you're going to want to be tipping between $10 to $15 per day. Of course, this is going to depend on how many drinks you're ordering. And if we're looking at a typical tipper, you're going to be anywhere between $2 to $5 per day. Now, let's look at service number 2, and that's the buffet. Now, the buffet is an important place to bring tips because you get drink service at the buffet. So yes, you're going to be walking up and serving yourself with your food, but when it comes to drinks, that's where your service is going to come into play because the servers are bringing you your cervezas, your wine, your water, your pops. So you're gonna wanna make sure you tip the buffet well because you're gonna get prompt service at the buffet for your drinks. It's also not uncommon to drop a $1 tip at any custom food station. So in the morning, you're gonna notice breakfast, there's an omelet station. And then you're also gonna know in the evenings, there's gonna be something like a spaghetti station. So it's usually appreciated to drop a $1 bill US in each of those tip jars at any specialty food station. Now, I think it's really important to tip the buffet. You're gonna be eating at the buffet at least once every single day during your vacation. So you're gonna find better service, your drinks are gonna come faster, they're gonna clear your plates faster. You know what, it's overall, you're gonna see better service when you tip the buffet. All right, now let's look at our daily buffet tips. Now, I'm gonna assume that we're eating breakfast and lunch at the buffet and we're hitting an a la carte for dinner. So let's look at 2 meals per day. If you wanna be a big tipper, you're gonna be leaving anywhere between $5 to $10 per meal. So that's gonna put your daily at between $10 and $20 at the buffet. Now, if you wanna be an average tipper, you're gonna be tipping anywhere from $2 to $4 per meal. So if you have 2 meals, you're anywhere between $4 to $8 per day. All right, let's go to our third service, and I was just talking about it. That's our a la cartes. Now, this is a really popular place to leave a tip because you're going out for dinner. You know what? You're getting dressed up, you're excited. It's gonna be your specialty meal, right? So this is a great place to bring tips. Now, it's really important to tip at your a la cartes. It's important to tip everywhere, but at your a la cartes, when you go in, let's say you hit the steakhouse and you know what, you have a great meal and say, we gotta come back here on Wednesday and do the steak again. Well, you're gonna wanna make sure that you left a nice tip there at your a la carte because the workers are gonna remember you and you're gonna get great service the next time you come in. So that's key to getting great service at your a la cartes is make sure to leave those tips. All right, now let's look at what we should be leaving for tips at our a la cartes. If you wanna be a big tipper, you're gonna wanna tip anywhere from $20 to $50 USD per meal at your a la carte. Now, if you wanna be an average tipper, you're gonna wanna tip anywhere from $5 to $20 USD per a la carte. All right, now let's look at our fourth service, and this one is really important too because this is housekeeping. So housekeeping is important because the ladies are the ones that are restocking your mini fridge. They're making sure you've got fresh towels, your toiletries are restocked, you've got fresh bed sheets, and that your room is cleaned really well. So this is really important to make sure you tip your housekeeping because it's gonna completely change your vacation and you're gonna absolutely have a better time if you tip your housekeeping well. Now, another thing I like to take into consideration when I'm leaving my tip for housekeeping, are there elevators where I'm staying and what floor am I on? So if I'm on the 2nd and 3rd floor, I'm gonna leave a little heavier tip just because the ladies, they gotta work harder. So that's something to remember. If you're on 2nd and 3rd floor and there's no elevators, account for that in your tip. So let's talk about our daily tipping expenditures for housekeeping. And I'm gonna say that we're staying on the 1st floor. So if you wanna be a big tipper, you're gonna wanna tip anywhere from $20 to $40 per day. And if you wanna be an average tipper, you're gonna wanna tip anywhere from $5 to $10 per day. Again, if I'm staying on the 2nd or 3rd floor, I'll make sure to leave a little larger tip to compensate for the extra work those ladies are putting in to make sure that my room looks magnificent. All right, now let's talk about our 5th service, and that is the concierge, the bellboy. So these are the guys that are gonna be taking your bags from check-in to your room and from your room back to checkout. Now, it's important to tip these guys because you know what? There's nothing better than arriving in paradise and someone coming, picking up your bags and rolling them into your room. So if you wanna get good service on the way out, make sure you tip for the good service on the way in. So for one-way concierge, taking my bags from the front of the resort into my room, a big tip would be $20 to $40 per trip USD, and an average tip would be anywhere from $5 to $10 USD. All right, now let's look at the sixth service that I was talking about. Not everybody uses this, but if you do use it, you know what? It's so important to tip because these ladies work hard. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about Kids Club. These girls work so hard to make sure that our children have such an awesome time on vacation, and there's no better way to show your appreciation to these ladies than leaving a nice tip at the end of the week. You know, we've been to resorts where our daughter, she just 3 months, 6 months later, she'll say, hey, remember the piñata party or remember the pool party, these types of things. So, you know what? These girls really leave lasting impressions on our children. So it's just so awesome. It's so deserving to leave them a tip. Now, I recommend tipping the Kids Club at the end of your stay, at the end of the week. You know what, when you're wrapping up your last day and you go to pick up the kids and you're talking to the ladies and you know what, you're saying, thank you so much for everything you've done. You know what, that's a great time to slip them the tip. So it's one nice large tip at the end of the week. They're gonna absolutely love it. And it's just such a great way to show some appreciation. They work so hard. Okay, so let's talk numbers. Now, if you wanna be a big tipper at the end of the week, you're gonna wanna leave anywhere from $100 and up. So $100 USD for the week and up if you want to be a big tipper. Now, if you want to be an average tipper, you're going to want to tip anywhere from $25 to $50 USD for the week. All right, so we've been through all our services. Now we can sit back and we can look and see what we should be budgeting for our next vacation to an all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic. This is a good guide for what you should be bringing for tips to make sure that you have an excellent vacation. If we want to be a big tipper, we should be budgeting $80 to $165 per day. If we want to be an average tipper, we should be budgeting between $21 to $53 per day. So now let's look at our 7-day vacation total. If you want to be a big tipper, you're going to want to tip anywhere between $560 and $1,155 per week. If you want to be an average tipper, you're going to want to budget in for $147 to $371 per week. The more you tip, generally speaking, the better vacation you're going to have. Now, if service is really, really important to you, if service is your number one, you're going on your vacation, you do this once a year or once every 2 years, those extra tips is going to completely change your next vacation. Hey, I hope you liked this video, the ultimate tipping guide to all-inclusive resorts in the Dominican Republic. Thanks so much for watching. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. I've got lots of videos for you to go check out. I've been to lots of resorts, and you know what? I got lots of resorts I'm gonna be going to, so stay tuned, and you know what? I'll see you in the next one.